Hello everybody, it's Josie here. I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up part 2 today. So I'm going to talk about some other books I read this month and what I thought of them. So the first book I want to talk about is, we'll start on a low and then hopefully work our way up. So the first one I'm going to talk about here is this book, Her by Harriet Lane. Now, I was attracted to, I'll be really honest, the really bright yellow cover because I quite liked it. And kind of the tagline on the back, or on the front said, it's an exquisitely sinister psychological thriller. So I was hoping for something along the lines of like The Talented Mr. Ripley, something really kind of nice and psychological and thrilling. This book disappointed me on almost every level. There was some bit, so it felt like the main story is about these two women, they're called Emma and Nina. And you kind of, each chapter, is either Nina or Emma, so you hear both of their voices, and the chapters kind of retell each other. So first you see what happened from Nina's point of view, and then you see it from Emma's point of view, which is fine. I quite like that kind of narrative device if it's done well. And it kind of starts off where you're like, you get the impression that one of the women knows the other one, and the other one doesn't remember her, weirdly. And it almost feels slightly stalkerish. And you feel like it might be building up to something, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but it really doesn't build up to anything. And I'll be honest, don't waste your time. I mean, that's my opinion. I kind of got to the end of the book and I went, what, why? Why have I just been reading this? So, I mean, I gave it 1 star. I just, yeah, 2 for trying. The beginning, I was kind of intrigued to know where it was going to go, but then I felt like they just stopped writing the book and it didn't really go anywhere. So I was not enthralled or intrigued or thrilled by this book. Then the next one, like I said, we'll do the lows first and then we'll go to the highs. So the next one is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and this is the first of the trilogy. Now, I have been loving sci-fi at the moment. It's definitely kind of been getting into sci-fi and dystopian, and I thought, you know, this is a classic. Let's read this. And I don't know, and this is just, I know a lot of people really love this book and really love like the series and everything about it, the mythology about it. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people. This is actually really short. I think it's only 200 pages and I got 100 pages in and I DNF'd it. I just couldn't push through to the end. I just wasn't, maybe I'm just not getting it. It just wasn't for me. That's kind of all I'll say on that. And then the last one, I'll dig it out under the pile. So the last one I've got here is Widows, Linda LaPlante. Again, I know this was made into a film. A lot of people really love this. And I kind of thought, okay, I've got the book and it's a pretty long book. So what I did was I got the audiobook. And I think 2 things. One, the audiobook narration, I actually think it might be the author, but I found the narration, it was very soft at times. The narrator would kind of start to whisper and I kept having to turn the sound up on my phone to try and listen to it because I listen to audiobooks when I walk to work. And also, there's quite a large cast of characters, lots of different women. So the idea of this is that you've got this group of 4 widows, 3 to start off with, but 4 in the end, who their husbands were kind of criminals. And their husbands were going to pull off a heist. And one of the women gets the others together and she decides that they're going to pull off this heist. So you've got kind of that narrative, you've got the police watching them, you've got the old kind of gang leader, all of that. And it's, I don't know why, but I thought this was set in the States. It's not, it's set in the UK. But I found the narration kind of irritating. And the fact that you do have quite a wide cast of characters, but it's the same person narrating all of the voices. I just really couldn't get on with it. And then the story for me, this is probably just not my kind of book. I really shouldn't have picked this up. I picked this up because maybe the film is better, but people were sort of hyped about it and saying it was really good. And I saw some sort of trailers and I thought, oh, that sounds really good. I think this would probably work better for me as kind of just a quick heist film. But as a book, again, it just wasn't for me. I found it dragged. Some of the love scenes were really cringy. It's just not my kind of thing. So yeah, so I got through probably 2/3 of the audiobook and I had to DNF it. And then I kind of considered reading some of the end, but I've decided to just give up. So That's Mother DNF. Now to the books that I really like this month. So the first one is this one over here, is All the Lonely People. Now, this is a really interesting one. So again, it's slightly dystopian, so it's kind of in the vein of a lot of the books that I've been reading this month. So you're looking at kind of social media and the effects of social media, and you've got our protagonist who has been targeted by a group of boys. And basically, so some of these parts were actually quite difficult to read, and it really kind of ties in with the Me Too movement as well, and what sort of happens to women, particularly online. And it has that element of, so I'm dying to read The Burning by Laura Bates, where that centers on kind of sort of revenge porn. And this, in a way, centers on these group of boys who have targeted, I think her name is Kat, yeah, who have targeted our main character, Kat, because she has quite feminist views, and they don't like that, and they get spurned on by another YouTuber who is kind of very right-wing, kind of, yeah, men are amazing, all women are trying to, you know, feminists are terrible, we need to bring them down, and, you know, how dare they stand up for themselves. And she kind of gets targeted by this group of boys, and they basically force her offline. So she's got to take down all her social media, her websites, her blogs, and she kind of loses this connection. She's quite introverted, and she loses this kind of social connection she has that she, you know, via the internet and via being online and online chat forums. So that part, it's really interesting. And then it does go into this kind of slightly dystopian idea of fading. I don't want to give too much away, but that's really, so the idea of identity, and when your identity is taken away from you, how does that affect you as a person? So I love that. Maybe, and I'm sorry, but maybe because it's a male author, I think actually that idea of what they do, these boys do, and their views and what they do to these girls, I don't know if that was fully explored. I think it could have been explored better, and I'm hoping that with The Burning, which is the Laura Bates book, and I suspect this is the case, that will be explored a lot more in depth. I don't know, I think I like the premise more. I like the first part of the book more. Yeah, it's a weird one for me. I can't really, I don't know where I sit yet on it. So I think I ended up giving it 3 or 3.5 stars on Goodreads. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to talk about that. Like I said, it was a little bit difficult to look at what they do and some of the views they hold on women for me. So yeah, it's an interesting one. The next one is this one over here. It's Ryan and Delilah's Midnight Matinee. I have done a full video on this, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but this is Jeff Sentner's first, newest book. I love, love, love The Serpent King. It's one of my all-time favorite books, so I was really looking forward to this. And all I'll say is that I did enjoy it. I know I've seen some negative reviews on it. I enjoyed it. It was a fun ride. If you want to see a full review on it, check out my video on this one. Then the next one I've got here is Kate Tempest, The Bricks That Built the Houses. So Kate Tempest is more well known for her poetry, and I believe this is her first novel, and it really centers around the lives of a group of sort of 20-something Londoners. And I really enjoyed it. It's a bit like a slice of life. It's about relationships, and the writing is gorgeous, and I really enjoyed it. If you're a very plot, I mean, there is a plot, and actually it's quite an interesting plot in the end, because all these characters sort of come together in the end. But if you're very, very plot driven and you want it to be fast-paced plot, it wouldn't be this, but this is very character driven, very beautifully written. It explores relationships. There's a gorgeous queer girl-girl romance in here, which I loved. And I really like this, so I gave this book 4 stars. So if you like that kind of contemporary slice of life fiction focusing on character and relationships, then this is a really good book. And then kind of the opposite of that is this one over here, is Tangerine by Christine Mangan. I hope I'm saying that right. So this one I picked up, again, mainly for the cover and the fact that it was set in Morocco in, I think, the 1950s, 60s. And I sort of love that idea of just transporting myself. It's cold and grey outside in Britain to the warm, heated sunshine of Morocco in the 60s. And it basically follows a couple. They've just gotten married. They moved to Morocco. And the main character, something happened in her past. I don't want to give too much away because this is a kind of like a thriller. And someone did say it's Girl on a Train meets a talented Mr. Ripley, both of which I love. And I would kind of agree with that. So with this one, I would definitely agree. This is thrilling. It's fast-paced. It has psychological thriller elements, which I loved. And you've got this main character with her husband, and then her friend shows up, this girl that was her friend when they were at college together. I'm not going to say any more than that. I really enjoyed this. As a thriller, I'd say 4.5 stars for me. Yeah, and if you like Girl on a Train and you like the talented Mr. Ripley, I think you will like this, and also the setting's gorgeous in Morocco. Then the next one is this one over here. It's The Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. This was built as kind of like a Stranger Things meets Scooby-Doo. And I get why people are saying that. So you've got a bunch of, so there were a group of kids, so you can see the 4 kids and the dog, and they kind of were like amateur detectives in their town when they were growing up. And they uncovered this like mystery of like a swamp man. And this was in the past, and the book starts in the present where they're grown up, they're adults. And various things have happened in each of their lives. And they go back to their town to kind of further uncover this mystery, because to them, they solved it, but not quite. So again, I don't want to give too much away of it because you're giving the storyline away, but it was fun. It is a bit Scooby-Doo-ish. I have to say, Edgar Cantero's writing, there were bits that I wasn't, it is an interesting writing style, that's what I'm going to say. I think you'll either like it or you won't. But I think the basic premise and the plot was fun. There were some bits that I kind of went really at. But I think if you like that sort of Stranger Things Scooby-Doo vibe, you'll like this. I gave this a solid 3 stars. But yeah, I think the writing kind of, I don't know. I think I prefer, so I was kind of comparing this to My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, which I preferred. But yeah, so that's kind of on the vein of what we're going there. And then the last one I've got here is 13 Minutes by Sarah Pinborough. Now, I've never read any Sarah Pinborough, and I know she's quite a popular author, and a lot of people really enjoy her and who enjoy sort of thrillers. And I have to say, I enjoyed this one. So you've got a girl who, it's very kind of Mean Girls, and I do quite like that. So I love any books that are about sort of complicated female relationships. And this is very kind of, I think they even say it's Mean Girls for the Instagram age, yeah. So you've got this girl who's kind of queen bee of the school, and she is found in a kind of a frozen pond in this park, and she's actually ends up being dead for 13 minutes. And she lives, so I'm not giving that away, that's the main storyline. And then you kind of go backwards to see what happened to her. And you've got this friend group. You've got one girl who used to be her best friend, who's now an outsider. Then you've got her other 2 kind of loyal followers. And you start to unpick and unravel what happened between these girls and in this friendship group. And I really enjoyed it. It gets very Mean Girls-y, very kind of, yeah, horrible and catty. But I quite enjoyed it. I did kind of sort of figure out part of the plot in the end. But I still had a good time and I enjoyed it. And again, 3.5 stars on this one. I enjoyed it more than Meddling Kids. So yeah, that was a good one. I'm going to take a sip of water from my mug. So thank you very much for listening to me. I will talk to you guys again soon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.